Okie dokie, let's interpret the value 7.01, which represents the rate of change. So these videos are all over the place if you're watching them separate, so I hope I'm giving you enough detail, but if not, you can go back to look at some other videos where I kind of explain what's going on in the chart. So if you see a lot of writing, it's already because I've talked about this. Okay, so somebody says to you, make an interpretation, and when it says interpret, what we're talking about is going back to the equation. So if I go back, and I've already done this in other videos, so if you want to go back and look at another one, if somebody gives me y equals mx plus b, I need to replace the m and the b with some numbers, and I do that to get this. So I'm just going to copy that equation, which was y equals 7.01x plus, what was it? 973. And then someone's going to ask you how to interpret that value, and they're going to give you one of these numbers. So your job is to explain one of the numbers, and those two numbers that are here are not related. So 7.01 doesn't have anything to do with 973. If I give you y equals 15x plus 3, 3 is how much money you have in the bank, 15 is how much you're going to get. If I have $3 in the bank, I have no idea. This could be any number. It doesn't have to be anything. So those two numbers are unrelated. So don't get confused that those two are somehow, they work together, because they don't really, they're totally separate. But either way, someone's going to say to you, interpret the value of something, and they're going to give you a number. So what they want us to explain is this number here. So it's not just some random number, it's the number from the equation. So if, like again, when I give you a number to interpret, you have to go back to the equation. Everything focuses around the equation. And then you should know, does that number represent the beginning or the growth? And if it's the number that's attached to x, it's going to be your growth. So remember what growths are. So if I have a chart and I said to you, y equals 5x plus 11, the 11 in the back would be the beginning, which means I would put 0 and 11 here. And the growth would not have any, like it wouldn't be in the chart at all, because it doesn't go in the chart. It goes on the outside of the chart. So that growth here would be 5, which means this would be 16. To fill this number in, we're always going to add 1. So growths don't belong inside the chart. They tell us how the chart adapts. So if I was going to make a chart out of this situation, I'm going to go back and I'm going to copy the chart. So notice the chart has age and weight in it. So I'm going to copy that exactly the same. This would be age and this would be weight. And I could copy the chart. I'll show you how to do that too. But right now, that 7.01 would be how this is changing. See, that growth lives on that side of the chart. And this side of the chart is going up by 1, just the way I did it here, right? So the growth of 5 showed up on this side, and the other side was growing by 1. So that's what I did here. If the growth is 7.01, I'm showing it on this side of the chart, and this side's going up by 1. And so now what this tells us is that if a puppy gets 1 year older, so notice what I did there. I used that 1 and that age, and I combined these two ideas. So if the age of a puppy goes up by 1, which is a really weird way of saying if the puppy gets a year older. So right, like we're saying, as the age of a puppy increases by 1, which you can say that's a fine statement, then the weight will respond, because age and weight are related. So if a puppy gets 1 year older, we expect, we predict, we think that the weight will increase by 7.01 pounds. So notice a growth that value 7.01, what we call the slope or the rate of change, is just how the two things are changing together. It's called a rate of change because rate is speed and change is what's changing in the story. So this is a story about German Shepherds and how old they are and how their weight goes up, right? As a puppy gets older, it gets heavier. That makes sense. But How much heavier? Well, that's what that number's trying to explain to us. That 7.01 is how something is changing as how the other thing is changing. So it's relating those two things together using numbers, right? So all you're going to do, or at least something that you can do, is to look at the chart and figure out how these two things are growing together. That growth is always going to be on this side of the outside of the chart, and this side is always going to grow by 1. And if you didn't want to make your own chart, no big deal. You would just copy, or you would go back up to the original and you would say, okay, again, I'm just like estimating here because that's what this says. 7.01, so that means this would be going up by 7.01, as this side would be going up by 1, and all you have to do is go back and figure out what words are associated with those numbers. And it's the same exact thing. Or you could make your own chart. Just make sure that the labels on top with the words match the original description. Okay, I hope that helps.